welcome to the Camnet Breakfast. I'm Patrick Soko. We are glad that you would find time to watch the program. You can follow the proceedings as we have a number of activities through our segments, which we are going to excite you with. And I'll be joined by my colleague Sharon Kalimbula later on, and we are going to be discussing the current status of the education sector. With our guest, who's going to be Mr. Lewis Mwape. He is a teacher, but he's also a development activist. He's a former teacher, so to say, and he's going to help us discuss pertinent issues in the education sector. As you may be aware, the government is now implementing the free education policy, and we're going to expect you, our dear viewers, to give your thoughts. Issues have also emerged regarding the tendency, which we have seen, that parents are being subjected to paying some unknown fees, such as those for buying tissues. They are being compelled to buy brooms. All those issues, we'll be discussing them. You are going to share your experiences with us to say, this is what is happening to the schools where your children are going, so that we can be able to see what is happening now that we have a free education policy. But what are some of the hidden costs that come with that? And we are going to be talking about that a little bit later. But just now, so that we get flexing, we're going to go straight into Morning Boost with Isaac Matsa, so that we can do some exercise. Stay tuned.
Good morning. Welcome to our Morning Boost in Camnet, wherever you're watching us from. If your hubby is in bed, tell them that they need to wake up. We are here to do a workout. And guess what? I have a special friend of mine. She's here to work out with me. Good morning, Chola.
Good morning, Isaac.
Great. Welcome. You ready?
Yep.
We're going to do a warm-up and then a workout. Let's go jam. Let us know where you're watching us from. If you're on Facebook, you're welcome. So we're going to do this for a minute. How was your night?
Boring.
Is it? You're going to boost your morning this morning, right?
Oh, yes.
Awesome stuff. Let's go. 4, 3, 2, marching. Let's go, Team Camnet. Let's go, let's go. It's a warm-up for a minute. We'll just do that. Very simple, very basic. Let's go. Keep marching. And 4, 3, 2, step touch. There you go. Let's go. And we'll be beginning our workout soon. 4, 3, 2, knee highs. Stay at it. Let's go. Keep on the knees. What else can we give them? Punches or 2 knees? What do you suggest?
Let's go our legs.
Our legs?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you think? We go back to step touch?
Yes, please.
4, 3, 2, step touch. Go. Hands up. Let's go. I think we can give them hamstrings. What do you think?
Let's go.
Okay. 4, 3, 2, hamstring, go. 1 each. Let's go, Team Camnet. 1 each. Oh, we need to pull some stuff. Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Stay there. 4, 3, 2, marching. That is your cool down now. If you want, you can quickly sip some warm water. And there we go. I think we need to throw some punches.
Let's do this, Camnet!
You know the one we're gonna do?
Okay.
We're gonna do a side punch. We'll be trotting with a punch. You remember that one?
Yes.
4, 3. We'll go with the right one actually. 4, 3, 2. Let's go. This is doable. What do you think?
I'm dying.
Ooh, I don't think so. Let's go. Push. Push. Let's punch into our day. Ooh. 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 Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. The other side. She's sipping some water. Now that's the reality of the workout. Sometimes you are doing the workout and you just have to go and sip some water. So there you go. Let's go. 4, 3, 2, and marching. So now I deliberately brought in my friend so that you see how it goes. Sometimes in the middle of a workout, you feel like you need to stop, drink some water. And that's what she did. Shola, let's go. Water break is over. Woo. Let's go. Match, 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 match. And 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's go. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. On the sides. 1, 2. Keep going. Let's go. 1, 2. And 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Let's go. Match, 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 match. Awesome workout, Team Camnet. Say something on our Facebook page. Let us know where you're watching from. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. This has been Isaac Matza, your presenter. Remember, always to tune into Camnet TV.
Isaac Matza.
No, it reminds me of that man from BBC. I think we should play him one of these days.
Yeah.
We should play him actually tomorrow or next week when we're on set. We should play that man so that at least you out there can be able to compare exactly where he gets the motivation to do whatever he's doing. But anyway, so this is the Camnet Breakfast, and we hope that you are keeping fit and you're feeling energized this morning. It's always good to kickstart your day with at least a prayer in the morning, first thing before you even get to decide to do those exercises of different kinds. Then you hit the road, either you just take a road run, or you hit the gym, or just one of those workouts that you can do at home. And that's where Mr. Matza comes in with Camnet TV, bringing you that workout which you can do right at your home, even in your bedroom.
Exactly. You can do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, even in your living room, you are able to do that.
Exactly.
Just follow the steps. Yeah, and we saw, Sharon, during the COVID-19 pandemic, where we had a number of people doing some exercises, especially along the road, so that they keep fit. You know, and the COVID-19 era, physical exercise is recommended so that you boost your immune system. You have to be physically fit. In case the COVID-19 strikes, you are able to overcome it, you see. But if you don't exercise, your body becomes weak. Your immune system becomes weak. So exercise during this COVID-19 era, when we're experiencing the Omicron pandemic, we are better off doing those exercises so that we keep fit and just continue pushing up the energy levels, because we know that we are living at a time when we have non-communicable diseases, NCDs, which are common now because we are not exercising, and we are seeing people getting obese. All such things come as a result of lack of physical activity, and we need to ensure that we just keep fit. Sharon, now talking about other issues that we have on the breakfast, we will be zooming in the headlines a little later. But I want us to talk about this sports event that was trending. In fact, Blessings was supposed to be here to be talking to us about that. But this one is actually exciting.
The Zambia wanting to go and play.
Yes, yeah. So
anyway,
so that has been also, I also got a wind of it on BBC Africa.
It's but then you know the story that we carried when we spoke to FAS Communications Officer Sydney Mongala. He said this is not true. We didn't give them the information. I think that was the story. But then where did this big international institution like BBC get all this information?
Yeah, so, but you know, I think it was Sydney Mongala again.
Exactly.
Who was quoted. So I think the first communication has to be organized because they would have even posted on their Facebook page, but yesterday they were not communicating anything to that effect. You see?
To that effect, it was just quiet. But and you know, this issue of bad communication is what breeds a lot of speculation.
Yes.
Yesterday I was attending one of these endeavors organized by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. One of the things that came out prominent from us stakeholders is that their communication strategy was very bad. Obviously, you are aware prior to the elections in 2021, the communication was bad. If you didn't monitor their Facebook page, you won't even know what they are talking about.
Yes, it was bad.
But then we cannot depend on certain types of information, certain types of platforms to get credible information. We need to quote sources, and these sources have to be available. So if we're going to get confused, whereby an international media house quotes him, and then the local ones, he tells us something else, that is confusion in totality.
Yes, it is.
Which we cannot condone as a people.
And for me, the storyline is that Zimbabwe has issues with between the governing body that manages football in Zimbabwe, so and the government, and FIFA does not allow government to intervene in football management. So we see this issue coming out in terms of that tension between the government and the FA in Zimbabwe.
But so I'm going to throw this to you. You follow football, yet you actually play football. I don't know what number you play on, what position you play though. But then this same whole story, in an event it happens the way it's being reported, are we going to play? I mean, that's my interest.
Yes, there are two options there, because Zambia can play, but it depends on what the decision that FIFA will make, because even the CAF itself will make. This is because if you check the statement that was there, Zambia says they are on standby because they finished behind Zimbabwe in the qualifiers to the Africa Cup. So their anticipation is that they will be better placed to replace Zimbabwe to play the Africa Cup. Now, the other option that is there for CAF is that group where Zimbabwe is, they can play 3 teams. So without Zimbabwe and Zambia not being called up to fill up the cup. So now it means that there'll be three teams playing against each other just within the group. So those are 2 options, Sharon. But we can hope that if Zambia goes to play, it will be a bonus for us, because Zambians have been eager to see the team to go to the qualifiers.
Shouldn't we be working hard to qualify, other than celebrating such a thing,
Yeah, you're right, Sharon, because now we're now depending on accuracy. That's why you say you have to work hard to avoid leaving things to chance. That's what we are doing now. We are now hoping that okay, let Zimbabwe fail, be disqualified.
Exactly. You're praying for somebody to fail so that you can chip in.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So that's the scenario. But we hope that our football governing board, FAS, will do everything possible to ensure that Zambia makes it to the Africa Cup next time around, and even the World Cup.
How many years go by for us to go for the Africa Cup? Is it 1 year, 2 years?
It is played in 2 years. So
played in 2 years.
Yes, so it means that they will soon start playing the qualifiers for the other coming Africa Cup. But because this AFCON Shan was also delayed because of Cameroon, they had other issues. They are working on the stadiums, this and that, so it was a bit delayed. But I think now Cameroon is on course to ensure that every day they hold the continental showpiece.
And talking about football, Patrick Soko, Camnet TV obviously will produce some of the players that will make it to the national team and probably push Zambia to get one of those cups, you know, the Africa Cups with the Camnet Sports Academy that is yet to start. Obviously, in 2 years, we'll have good players that will probably join the national team.
Yeah, well, following from the deliberations from from Pastor Chiruba and the coaches, they assembled and everything. For me, the Camnet Academy will be an organized sort of arrangement because it is starting at that level. Yeah. It's not starting from the scratch. And so what will be happening on the 8th is that there will be the identification of players, so that the players who are going to be part of the academy, and these players will be fine-tuned by the coaches that the patron has arranged to ensure that they put the pieces together and the team starts playing in Division 4. Then they will eventually push that the team start playing even progresses to League One. You see, so the academy is not a small thing that will be coming by which is being spearheaded by the Camnet TV. So this Sharon will be a force to reckon with, like you say. Yeah. This is because it's going to be organized. It will be participating in local tournaments, competitions, as well as abroad. So we'll see how that goes with the trials, which we're going to televise during the Off the Pitch program, which is anchored by Amos Lungu on Saturday. So we're going to see some of these talents which will be identified so that to be part of the team. So we just hope that parents there have already taken an opportunity to ensure that they support their children to take part. And it's between there are two groups, not 16 to 18. 16 to. Is it 15 to 16? Yes, then 17 to 20. Yeah. So if your child is within that range, encourage them to take part in this selection process and see if at all they can be the next Ronaldo. Exactly. Yeah. The next is it Mbesuma? The next Patson Daka. The next Fashion Sakala. Exactly. So those are our very own people that are doing it great for this country and putting us on the map, even though other countries are claiming one of them to say this person is from our own, is from Kenya. Interesting. We don't even understand how. Interesting. When he scores, they are also busy, they are celebrating. So our very own. But it's a spirit of Pan-Africanism. You understand? Yeah, exactly. African players are now doing big things in Europe. They are really playing a major role. We're seeing the likes of Salah, Sadio Mane, will be also part of the Africa Cup. So these players are doing great for the continent. I think there's one I like, but I've just forgotten it. Mbappe. Oh, Mbappe is from France. Yes, it's like he's a good guy, I think. You need him to be an African. Yes. He has to. No, he is an African by nationality. I think he just plays there because, I mean, he was born in Africa. He's African. No, that's the more reason why. He's African. He's an African, yes. That's the more reason why when he's playing, you know that time France against another. Interesting. Women and this, oh my goodness. Interesting. It's Mbappe. They call him the Ninja Turtle. Exactly. Okay, so that was a very, very good conversation, Patrick, on football. You actually forced me out of my comfort zone. I barely talk about football, you know. I'm going to make you the next Blessings Chakula. No ways. And that's the more reason why I just know a few Mbappe. But anyways, we take a very short break. When we return, we'll continue zooming into the headlines, some of the stories that made headlines. Stay with us.
Are you a young talented football player? Unlock your international future potential of greatness in soccer. Zambia's greatest soccer talent that the world has been waiting for is about to be revealed. Join young and gifted football players through Camnet Soccer Academy. There will be trials and selection of potential players. Trials to be conducted on 8th January 2022. Camnet Soccer Academy is looking for 2 categories, namely under 16 and under 18. Don't miss this opportunity of a lifetime. Time 08 hours to 16 hours. Venue Kablonga Boys Secondary School. Parents, bring and support your children. Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. You are watching the Camnet Breakfast up there, and like you saw our during the break, you can equally download the Camnet app and be part of our programming. You can be able to follow proceedings through the Camnet app. It's very, very, very easy to use there, Shalom.
Indeed, the app is very easy to use. It can work on your Android phones. You can download it and watch Camnet TV wherever you are. In an event that you don't want to watch, using our Facebook and our YouTube channel, obviously all our live programs, we beam them live on those 2 platforms which are online. That's Facebook and YouTube. We're very consistent with that. But if you cannot do that, you can also download the application and watch throughout all the programming that we have here. That's the advantage of having the app. It's basically TV on the go.
Yeah.
Like wherever you are able to watch everything that is being played here.
In case you're fighting for a remote,
Exactly.
just download
the application.
And let them enjoy whatever they're enjoying, and enjoy watching Camnet TV on the app on your phone. Just now we're going to look at money markets so that we understand how our kwacha is performing there.
Against major currencies in the world. So the United States dollars was buying at 16 kwacha 16 ngwe and selling at 16 kwacha 93 ngwe. The British pound was buying at 22 kwacha 46 ngwe and selling at 22 kwacha 19 ngwe. The euro was buying at 18 kwacha 75 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 12 ngwe. The South African rand was buying at 1 kwacha 03 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 05 ngwe. So you know the what do you call this, South African rand? It's not much of a difference with our currency.
Yes,
it's almost at par, you know.
They are always at par.
So if somebody tells you I bought this at 350 rands, you probably just have to add like a 10 kwacha or like a 20 kwacha on top.
It may be less than that.
It may be less than that.
Just
so
by that same, yeah. So sometimes
so
we are
within the same.
fine.
Well, I'm not sure, because South Africa is a great economy anyway. If at all we are somewhere there, maybe we are trying to perform better. But however,
but then they are equally comparing with the US dollar. So
yes,
it also
exactly.
depends how we are fighting.
That
with
is
the
our note. That is actually our common denominator. Like we measure how we are performing using the US dollar. In as much as the British pound is always higher, but then we always compare ourselves to the USD. However, those are the money markets this morning, and we are getting into some of the headlines.
Yeah. So, zooming the headlines, we're going to look at some of the stories that have been trending in the Camnet main news. So we get to listen to the story regarding the Ministry of Agriculture, where we have an outbreak of armyworms. I will also play that story back to back with another story regarding the payment of farmers in East, and we managed to capture those in Eastern Province who are happy that they are now receiving the money. But they are also
those that have not yet received.
Yes, but they are also saying that government should do
expedite the process.
Yes, and then they should be paying on time, then, as opposed to when you say on the 3rd,
You are paying per 4, per 5.
Those arrangements.
So we love to prompt things. And if when they say come for work at 10, we come at exactly 10.
Imagine.
You know, just because it's the other person, we just want to push them hard.
Yeah, you see.
But anyways, we always need to ensure that what we promise to do, we do it on time. But you know, when it comes to money issues, it's bank transfers. If they say 3rd, maybe the transaction was done on the 3rd.
So I probably
for the money to reflect 2 days.
My advice would be that officials should be saying, say, when they say 3rd, they should be starting the process ready to be earlier. So instead of 3rd, they would have said on the 5th, so that by the 3rd they start processing the processes. You understand?
At the same time, nobody would get the money at once.
You see,
because we've got different banks, we've got different processes that go on in there. So basically, let's just look at these stories and then we'll come back and comment on them.
The 2021-2022 farming season has come with various climate change concerns, which have raised questions about the status of the country's food security. The Ministry of Agriculture, however, has assured the nation that the country is food secure for the next 12 months, contrary to speculations. Addressing the media Wednesday, Minister of Agriculture Mr. Ruben Piri has, however, advised farmers across the country to take measures aimed at protecting their crops from armyworms, stating that there is an outbreak of 4 armyworms in Mukushi district, which has so far affected over 300 hectares of crops in that district.
The 4 armyworm is a serious threat to national food security. And as a government, we have strengthened surveillance and other control measures to contain the outbreak of the migratory pests and diseases. In the 2021-22 farming season, a total of 331 hectares has so far been affected by armyworms, and this is in Mukushi district of Central Province. However, due to the prevailing climatic conditions, the ministry expects all provinces to eventually be affected by the armyworm. Members of the press, I wish to inform you that in an effort to create awareness on armyworm control, the ministry has been working with various media houses, especially local radio stations. We have also been working with mobile service providers to send text messages on armyworm control to affected farmers.
Mr. Piri asked that government will soon clear the remaining balance of 640 million kwacha owed to farmers by the Food Reserve Agency FRA, emphasizing that funds are readily available. The Minister of Agriculture asked that distribution of fertilizer is at over 80%, urging suppliers to expedite the process. Meanwhile, the ministry has announced that it is expecting to sell over 110,000 metric tons of maize to potential buyers within the next 10 days.
26 out of the 28 potential buyers of maize, and this is maize from FRA meant for export, have been given contracts. So 26 have been given the contracts. This is to a total tonnage of 110,600 metric tons, which has been authorized by the FRA to sell. Out of this, if we do sell everything, we are expecting to get 442.4 million Zambia kwacha. We have given the buyers 10 days from the date when the contract has been signed and given to them, within which period they should pay. If they don't pay, then the contract collapses, it elapses, it is over. They would have to wait for the next tranche if it will be there.
However, an agriculture expert, Captain Cesar Chibuye, has challenged the ministry to explain what measures it will put in place to ensure that the country is food secure even for 10 years and not just for 1 year, stating that rainfall patterns have been unpredictable. The ministry has further urged farmers to buy seed and fertilizer from trusted suppliers, stating that substandard inputs have infiltrated the market. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Malero tambotenga kunukwatira simala ampareza chetu wako kwa maboma sukuga ti iko chetu wese tukazi mvula chambe tangati ya chetu wako iyo mvula iwera kwa mwaka msanga sembe apatina losi nkani ya oli kwa boma isimpe ikopere wako ndrama pa nthawi yake mufulumira
omba pa takondwera kuti boma ipereka ndalama kuma icheru wako kufunika kusire akuti basako kanthawi ndithu kakalika ndawasowa pati tadankawa na vana skulu vana kusukulu titajankhawa kuti titwaleko chinji
andalama tambotola kusontokodwa talimdala atipasa pa nthawi yabwino tigule mbewu alime bwino.
Welcome back. This is Camnet Breakfast. So those are some of the stories that we are zooming on this morning. You too out there can call in and comment on these stories and also send those messages via our Facebook platform as well as YouTube. Send us those messages and we'll be able to read them and have your view known out there to the world. So that is the Minister of Agriculture talking about the outbreak of the animalworms. At least that is something that has come out so prominent, you know, due to, he mentioned, Patrick, to say this is due to the climate change, which has brought about different kind of weather that has ignited this outbreak of the animalworms. And so far, about 300 hectares of land somewhere has been grazed by these armyworms, and he actually mentioned to say we're expecting the whole 10 provinces to be infested with these armyworms, or with these worms. I mean, is it locusts? Armyworms, yes. Yes. So basically, this is a warning to the farmers so that they can at least find ways and means of ensuring that their crops are protected, especially that I mean, imagine the poor rainfall pattern so far, because as it stands, this January 6th, maize was supposed to be on a certain level. You know, we are a maize growing country, but then most areas have had their crops die. We've seen some members of parliament complaining to say government should give these people maybe another set of seeds because they planted initially and the crops have died. But then we have this other situation. Oh my God. I hope it doesn't turn into a disaster. On the other hand, the minister also was just probably re-echoing what he had already mentioned, to say farmers have started receiving their money, those that were owed by government, and we took a leap from those from Eastern Province, Patrick.
Yeah, so I think the farmers are now being paid their money, because we had also heard a story on Camnet TV where the farmers were expressing concern to say 3rd January was not coming on time as assured by the government. And there was that man on the other story we did who was asking it, Kodi, imekwano 3 January karibe kufika.
No, maybe we are. Did you see that meme where where there was the January 100th, January 10th, January 15th, like you chew all your money in December, and then when January comes, it looks like it's 4 months in 1 month. Could that be his situation?
Yeah, so I was wondering why. This is a different calendar. I don't know.
But that is his assumption that these people, maybe they are reaching January 100.
Yes, so I was wondering, you see. But we thank God that
the money is
started
in their accounts.
In their accounts, yeah. So
they are happy. At least, even if the money is obviously not going to cover all the farmers, but we hope that the majority of the farmers get the first batch of the resources that were released, Patrick. And yesterday we were talking about a similar story where some farmers were saying this money is neither here nor there.
Yes, it's
this and that. But yeah, also in the evening we were meant to realize that some farmers started receiving the money and they were happy. You know, money is never late. When it comes, it's never late. It's always exciting.
Yeah, but as a country, it's something that we need to work on so that we ensure that we help our farmers prepare on time, because others was, I heard in that clip someone saying, we are lucky that the rains delayed. Otherwise it would have been chaos, because it would have been a disaster, because we wouldn't have managed to do everything, to buy everything, because at the, you know, Sharon, our farmers depend on the same money they usually expect from government. Yes, from government. So when the money delays, it also delays their development in terms of them managing their needs, like sending their children to school, then also preparing for the next farming season. So those challenges come as a result of them being not able to access the
Delayed
funds on time.
payments.
Yeah. So we hope that going forward, we understand that the new Dawn government is settling, and while they settle, they are going to develop their own
prompt payments.
Yes, systems, because we need, at the end of the day, it's about efficiency. If we are to make sure that agriculture becomes the mainstay of the local economy, we have to ensure that we maximize every opportunity that helps us to ensure we have increased productivity levels in the country.
And you know that most of the farmers are actually not commercial farmers. Most of the farmers that sell their produce to the Food Reserve Agency are not really commercial farmers.
Yes.
Commercial farmers are into other crops. They grow sunflower, they grow other things, soybeans. But you know, us, the rain-fed agriculturist, for lack of a better term, we depend on the rain, and we always grow maize throughout, and we grow it to capacity sometimes, like the previous season when we had bumper harvest, which forced government to buy beyond what it anticipated to buy. That is according to them. But still, we continue to give the same kind of seed to our farmers as the Farmer Input Support Program, you know. How do we expect them to diversify? We don't actually have gone a step further to provide readily available market for other farm produce. It's always a struggle to sell certain crops because the market is so unavailable that you keep on thinking, if I go this route, I may not realize the money that I invested in, and therefore they still go for the maize, and it becomes a monocropping country like the way we are now. However, other stakeholders have been calling for the diversification agenda, like he was at some point. They were very vigorous with regards to growing cassava, growing millet, and they were all giving all these advantages of you as a household having certain kinds of foodstuffs like cassava, millet, replacing the millet meal, which is the monocropping. Also, they were calling on the Met Department, which is now under the Ministry of Green Economy, to release timely information which will help the farmers grow the right crops with the right type of weather condition that they are going to have. For example, this same situation where we have delayed rainfall, and then they are only advising the farmers to say, grow other crops, like the statement they released, I think that was 15th December, somewhere there. Also grow other crops like cassava. But I mean, I've already tilled my land, I've already planted for maize. Why are you telling me to grow cassava? And how long does cassava take for me to reap, you know? So basically, those are some of the great concerns that we need to put into consideration. Capacitate the Met Department, let them give accurate information with regards to the kind of weather we're going to have as a country. It will help a great deal the farmer out there. Just plant the right crops with the right kind of weather they are going to have. We've got climate changes, but then obviously if we have the right equipment to see that this year we're not going to have enough rain, let's plant this, it's going to help us as a country.
Interesting. We're going to zoom in another story, and that story is coming from the nitrogen chemicals of Zambia workers who are protesting. And Sharon, sadly enough, those people ended up behind bars. They took their protest to the next level.
Is it?
And yeah,
Just
yes, just I got wind of it.
After being addressed by
I got wind of it because they couldn't be addressed because I got wind of it. They were heading to the State House, and eventually they were arrested.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Let's just look into the story and we discuss
what we covered earlier in the morning.
You two out there, remember, can send in your contribution, call us and give us a comment. These are part of the retirees, not so. These are retirees, not so.
Yeah, they were part of. They worked for the company. Then it's like they were dismissed, and they worked for many years. Some of them, but they say they were not paid leave days. So that has been their argument.
You know, Patrick. Before we look at that clip, the story of retirees for me actually seems like blackmail somehow, because these people keep surfacing. How many groups of retirees do we have? The other week we had one of the retirees.
Yeah, so
honestly,
that
representing a different group.
So we have in the public service, we have the number of retirees. There are those who are under the local government. So those are the ones, in fact, that were targeted for payment. When the president was also talking about releasing funds to pay retirees,
it was those in the
they are also
government.
under the local government superannuation fund, LASIF.
Yes.
And we also have the retirees of 1999. So we also play that story for the retirees of 1999. The retirees of 1999 were actually addressed by the Secretary to the Cabinet yesterday. So we also
yesterday there were other two. There were two protests.
Yes, this one is about these ones who are complaining against the management of NCZ, and they claim to have worked for the company, and the company dismissed them. Yet they did not pay them their leave days and any benefits. So and others claim to say, me, I was injured while working for NCZ. As a casual worker, I had to break my rib. This other person, I broke my leg. So, but there was no compensation. And when we go to the Minister of Labor, we don't get help. These are things that have been coming through and through and through and through and through and through. So let's play the story for those who were protesting against NCZ. In fact, they are from Kafue, but they had to come to Lusaka. So we'll play that story. Then we'll come and talk about that a little bit later. These are former workers of nitrogen chemicals of Zambia. They say they had to walk from Kafue to Lusaka to seek the attention of President Hakainde Hichilema over their issue with NCZ. Their attempt to go to the residence of the head of state was curtailed by the police and opted to take their protest at the Kafue roundabout. They claim to have worked for NCZ and were not paid their leave days.
That is an insult to us as youths, that you are just a horse. When a horse is in the race, the one who is given a medal is a human being, not a horse. So, Your Excellency, we seek your serious intervention of this matter. We want money. We were not given not even a coin, not even a 50 ngwe. The NCZ management is so stubborn. My rib was broken here. As you can see here, the bone is disconnected when I was lifting sacks, bag of fertilizers. But I was not compensated. I was never compensated for this damage. Now whenever I go somewhere, they say you can't work because you are not fit.
Muno twalomba please. Grupo wansa ndimu bwenye ililandi nywe. Twasia migwahi tulapengana tatubele gitonze tuliwawa. Tuyanda nchito. Ono watu swingila malaso tulalia nzi.
They hope that the New Dawn government will come to their head and help them get their money.
Na tuomba imyaka ingi sana mweni CZ. Andi hapa tulelanda tuarokwa bushikubonse nemfulo kwenda na marufu makweli CZ tukwisa kuno. So hapa tuli mu Lusaka ina pa mulembo na hapa ikufiri lyali ona ikeli. Saka lya fertilizer foto yenkwete lyali shirengu mapo ukuyako kubakalamba bakuntansha kulanda ta. Tapafo twinga uchitrai wali osiri Yesu tatuka tempia shito jinga kupera. So hapa waona iko kuta kule bomba. Kabie panse ke kale. So hapa na bapanse tapana ko chimocho nchitabadi kulunali onaika. So ndipashi ndepa patana ine. Bachi echi tulolekesheni ko triwapina ifwe.
18 years when is that? But no compensate olo chani akwati olo kano olo kakwati. Ndiali shamu abana. Tepali chomu na chora mpira kwa tin pano no yo. Nangu bashikuru banangu cyane bonje pawe cyo bane cyo bacho bakita benefits na uri kuni na wishikuru bona no pan.
She said no, when we come into power I'll do something about it, but she has just been mute. We have been to the labor office. The human resource manager Mrs. Kakunga, she even says that these labor officers that you bring here, once we just give them 20 quarter for talk time, they go for good, they keep quiet. So we want that management to be dissolved. Kakunga must go because they are corrupt. They have employed people without grade 12 certificates. The plant is full of cadres. People are qualified. They are not even given any kind of jobs. We are here, Mr. President, on our knees. Please, just like you promised, let these people give us our leave days.
It seems such protests will be the order of the day under the New Dawn administration, as history shows, based on various reports made by Mr. Zambia on the State of the Media report and other non-state actors, that the country was experiencing a shrinking civic space under the PF government, but now people are freely expressing themselves. Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
You see, we have grown older, but up to now we haven't yet been cleared our dues. What is government thinking of us?
It is now 23 years since these retirees went on voluntary separation in 1999, with an expectation that government would pay their dues within the time frame agreed between the two parties. However, governments have passed from legal case to another, but still nothing has been done. On Wednesday, they marched to cabinet offices in Lusaka to air out their grievances, representing the other 1,042 retirees who called on the new administration to consider settling their dues.
Our representatives were here and they were told that the report was not written yet. So we were wondering what kind of report are they writing since January last year. We left work in 1999. This is the 23rd year. Our friends have died. Our friends' children can't go to school.
What could be the time frame? How soon? Is it? Could it be the end of this month, or are we going to wait in perpetual? Or what is the time frame exactly?
They have vowed not to take no for an answer, for they are advancing in age and they need the money now.
So ndi hapa tipempako kuti patithandizeko. Tayesa kuma lawyers vinakanga. Tayesa kuti maji ife manje lawyers sana tingene ntchito. Munipesesa. Sinangene ntchito kuma lawyers ife nangena ntchito ku boma ya Zambia. Muona ka? Tinangena ntchito ku boma ya Zambia kuti pamene manje ife tili so tivutika boma tithandize watipase ko kali konse ife tiende ku mizi kwatu.
Meanwhile, Secretary to Cabinet Patrick Kangwa has assured them that government is doing everything possible and asked for more time to conclude the process.
Tuchita understand. Mumfikishe sana. Ubuteko na bubomba sana. Bafwaye ndalama. Bwalipira abaku PSPF na kolasif. Mumfikishe sana. Ndalama bakateka bahebera na bachita release. Shaile kolasif na ku PSPF. Mule mumfikishe. So Shiriana Shia, Shabadia. Imwenda la mashenu shipita kwisi. Na nile mwafole teku justice ku compensation and awards tefi. So ifo trefuat. Ba finance bari pilafi. Mumfikishe sana fondelanda. Ifo trefuat tubombeke sholuvilo hapa. Chakwe bati na pali abo tukwatile ndalama abo butego bukwatile ndalama. Twasuminisha nye ndalama shaku justice ku awards le twala pita mofechi imyaka ile pita na futi tule rufya nyafi na mwatupela kofi akashitave tuchitenchito omfweni.
It is the hope of these retirees that government will live up to their promise and pay what they rightly deserve. Alex Shimba, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Welcome back. Well, there you have it, that interesting story there for retirees. It keeps on coming on the screens. It's not a new story at all. The retirees of 1999. Sharon.
Retirees of what? The retirees of... We've got so many of them such that sometimes even as we get confused who among these retirees we are covering, because you find that today you receive a call, no, we are protesting, the other day we are protesting. So it's a lot of work on the part of government, and they just need to find a lasting solution, really. At the same time, sometimes I feel when you talk to these people, different groups, Patrick, or sometimes you consistently cover a certain group, you ask them exactly what they are looking for. Like you mentioned, leave days. Honestly, meaning that they were paid. Others, they would be paid, they go back and sit as a group, because these people have formed more like committees. They will say, no, this money that we are given is not enough. Let's go back and start claiming. You know, it's like blackmail.
Yeah, like there's
someone will keep claiming, will keep milking from you. But then what is the lasting solution? Say, Ishisha elastish, please.
You know, I think it's about transparency between the employer and the employee.
Or the
and the lawyers.
And the lawyers involved.
And the others don't even manage to manage a lawyer. Because sometimes when you include the lawyer, you may discover that you are paid money and it goes to servicing a lawyer. And you end up getting peanuts. And you start wondering again, because accessing lawyers in Zambia is not cheap, Sharon.
No, it's not
so
cheap.
It's something also we need to work on, because there are a few lawyers
that work pro bono.
So that work pro bono. So, and not everyone is willing to provide that service. The Law Association of Zambia, we understand, has been working towards something to ensure that services are provided on pro bono basis at a greater extent, but does not materialize to the full extent. Very few lawyers would provide those services on pro bono services. But Sharon would find that even if the lawyer manages to push for you and represent you in advocating for your money, sometimes when you come to earn your package, the lawyer gets the larger part. Yeah, so. And you even start thinking to say, was it worth the hassle? Yes. You understand? Yes. So, like you said, Sharon, we need pensions reforms. That the new Dawn government has assured that they are going to undertake pensions reform, so that the government can be able to ensure that once you retire, your money is given to you. And the president also said, Sharon, another thing is that you should be able to access your money, let's say from NAPSA, mid-term. Let's say, Sharon, you're supposed to retire by 65 years. When Sharon clocks 35 years, she should get part of the money and invest. Then she should invest in something so that you continue up to your retirement age, you get your final package.
Because this money, sometimes people end up not getting them. They just like lose the money. Because maybe you, for example, you die before your retirement age, and even if you retire, others fail to pursue that money. The next of kin also fail to pursue that money. Who gets the money? For me, that is theft in broad daylight. However, let us advocate for people getting their money mid-term. That's a welcome move, because obviously people will be able to invest, will be able to buy what they want, a car or something like that. Right?
I can only assume that you are just imagining.
I'm just imagining, these are reforms that we need to advocate for, and obviously government thought it wise if at all they were to go this route, because it will help quite a number of people access funds, and it will just help them relieve themselves from this burden of retirees year in, year out.
We'll take a short break. We'll be back shortly on the other side.
Oh, we testify, we celebrate.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
We testify, we celebrate. For all you've done, Lord, we give you all the praise. Oh, we testify, we celebrate.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Hi there, SGK Properties wants to remind you that there will be life after the festivities. That's why we are here right now presenting you an opportunity to invest in what will literally last you a lifetime. We have various plot sizes in Kabangwe area, just 6.7 kilometers from 6 miles roundabout. Plot sizes range from 20 by 20s, 25 by 20s, 30 by 20s, 35 by 20s, 40 by 20s, 40 by 23s and 40 by 35s. We also have 1 acre plots located in Lusaka West, 22 kilometers from Lumumba Road on Mungwi Road, going for 180,000 kwacha. Remember, the option to have your dream house or passive income investment property constructed for you with modern finishes and quality care is also available. For more details on acquiring these pieces, contact us on 0762 166018 or scan the QR code you see on the screen to access us on WhatsApp directly. SGK Group, serving generations through knowledge.
If you're watching the Camnet Breakfast, you too out there can send in those comments of yours and have your views heard. We are talking about a number of issues. We've been zooming into the headlines, and a little later we will be joined by our guest, Mr. Lewis Mwape, who is a development activist, and we will be talking about the current status of the education sector. Obviously, the new Dawn administration, 5 months into government, has brought about different proposals as to how they want to attain these education promises that they made prior to the election. And this is the 60th day into their first national budget, and some monies have been released towards various sectors, among them the education sector. So we will be delving into that conversation with development activist Mr. Lewis Mwape to just highlight a number of issues in the sector. Patrick?
Yeah, we'll be talking about that, Sharon, so that we get to understand some of the pronouncements at what extent. And Mr. Mwape is also a former teacher.
Exactly.
So he's going to
he actually tells me he's one of the most intelligent human beings that has ever been, especially not only in Zambia, you know, but on the international platform.
Was he persuading you?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't, but it's just one of those conversations like, you know, I'm one of the most intelligent people, you know, with his Bemba accent, you know.
We put him to the test.
The Mununga accent.
We put him to the test on the other side. We are going to play a story from the Patriotic Front where the UPND where they are accusing each other of not having a plan, especially on the issue of CDF. Let's hear that story.
And on the other side, we'll be joined by Mr. Mwape on set to discuss what just mentioned earlier. This is a Cabinet Breakfast.
The country will be holding a by-election on the 20th of January 2022 in Kawata constituency, which was necessitated following the demise of sitting Member of Parliament Levi Mukandawile. United Party for National Development UPND Lusaka Province Chairperson Obvious Mwaliteta says the UPND is keen to steer issue-based politics, which he said the PF failed to do when in office. He was speaking in Kawata constituency where the party is campaigning for its candidate Andrew Tayengwa.
All our cadres they've taken those instructions strictly. That's why we are not going to allow any violence. You saw Honorable Lubinda campaigning door to door. He was not scared of anyone. He was doing it freely. That's how it should be. That's what HH wants to see in his country. He doesn't want to rule the country where there is bloodshed. From the time we took over power 4 months ago, there has no one has been reported dead during these by-elections. We want to show the PF that you can hold by-election without bloodshed.
Meanwhile, the opposition Patriotic Front PF, on its quest to provide checks and balances, accused the government of poor planning on the Constituency Development Fund CDF.
Up with a plan, and you don't have the guidelines on how to implement the plan. You say we're going to give 25.7 million for every constituency to use at CDF, but we don't know how we will use it. You have allocated it in the budget, but you have no plan on how to utilize it. This reminds me of Chimbwe, no plan.
Yes. But Mr. Mwaliteta is disappointed that the PF is condemning everything, including increased CDF allocation.
What plan did they add with 1.6 million themselves? I thought the CDF is a CDF, it's Constituency Development Fund. What plans did they add? Because this CDF has been there, it's an old program. The only thing HH has come to do is just to increase it from the small amount of money of 1.2 million to 25.7 million. It's the same CDF. except that HH saw the need of putting more money to the people, not what they said, more money into people's pocket, which never came. The people worked in the government, the former civil servants, they've suffered enough. He wants to clear them. But Lubindo was saying, no, we inherited this. So when you inherit, unapeza po widow, wamukwatira songa bali nemo bana. And because you inherited this woman, so you cannot give her a child. What kind of excuse is that? That's why I'm saying insanity abantu sinibaona straight. Maybe they need Chinama doctors, because what they are talking is not making sense and failing to add up with what they are saying, you know.
He says the Zambian people must exercise patience with President Hakainde Hichilema.
So they are trying to bring in so many issues so that they can distract him from thinking straight. But HH, you cannot distract him. He thinks straight and he does things the way they are supposed to be done. There is sanity in this country. People should appreciate.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
Well, that was obvious Mwariteta justifying why they increased the CDF and castigating the opposition Patriotic Front over some of the remarks they have been issuing this week. They have been having various engagements with the media, talking about various government pronouncements, especially pertaining to CDF, education and other sectors. And Mr. Mwariteta was just trying to justify some of those issues. And in the studios, we've been joined by a governance activist, as well as a development activist, also a teacher, Mr. Lewis Mwape. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Patrick, and thank you very much, Sharon.
Okay, so education is the greatest liberator and the best force of influence for every child. The UPND administration, through the budget, advocates for free education up to secondary level, with no cost at all, such as boarding fees arise from secondary school education, the community at constituency level or even ward level. So in this interview, Mr. Mwape, we will seek to address some of the concerns that have been brought forward by various sectors of the economy and just members of the general public with regards to some of the pronouncements, specifically free education issue.
So to kickstart the program, Mr. Mwape, we understand that Zambia is a member of the United Nations and Zambia assigned Sustainable Development Goals. And Sustainable Development Goal number 4 specifically talks about education. That is not just education, but inclusive access to quality education. Now, we want to get your overall assessments as we implement SDGs as a country, Zambia. How would you make an overall assessment in terms of us towards going towards achieving some of the targets under education?
Well, first of all, maybe we must begin to look at where are we coming from. And the Sustainable Development Goals are a build-up to Millennium Development Goals. And if you look, you remember the Millennium Development Goals, goal number 2 was talking about universal primary education and a lot of work to be done in the secondary and tertiary education. So in short, the Millennium Development Goals, in terms of universal primary education, there was a good delivery by many countries in the world. But what was there was that there was crowding of, it was just like a mere crowding of pupils in classrooms without looking at quality. And so we who were a part of the initiation of the Sustainable Development Goals, I remember we assembled the civil society, some good educationists we assembled in Germany, in Bonn, and we looked at some of the development goals, the performance of Millennium Development Goals, and what needed to be changed. And there was a push to see that quality of education needed to be, we didn't just need to look at quantity. We needed also to look at quality, and that's how we came up with the goal number 4, which actually looked at quality education and inclusiveness. Because when you are talking about inclusiveness, you are also bringing out, in terms of SDGs, you are bringing out the issue of gender, you are bringing out the issue of inequality. So which is a Sustainable Development Goal number 10, which is very, very cardinal. And when you look at the architecturing of the UPND manifesto, it was based on the fact that there was a lot of inequalities around education. And one of the issues that anchors, like for example in Zambia, if you look back and ask yourself a question of how has been education been funded from before independence, after independence, MMD and what? And you saw that before independence there was some form of what we called the self-help, which has continued. I think some of you have been preview to the fact of funding where if you are building a school, 25% was given in terms of material support by the community members. So that kind of self-help has been continuing throughout, and so there is always, then they came to a point where because there was a lot of inequalities, so KK thought that there was need to provide, first of all, not just education in quantity, but education also in terms of quality, to ensure that we develop the human capital for after independence, post-independence. And so those of there are people that benefited, like the current president, the former president. Most of these people, the generation maybe that is from 1979 or 1964 up to somewhere around 1980, 1980s. After 1980s, there was some introduction of some school fees, which was statutory school fees, school fund, which was 2 kwacha.
There's a lot of money there in December. It sounds
not really a lot of money, but I think it was affordable because it was transferable also. When you move from one school in this country, you are coming from Northern Province, going to Copper Belt, it was transferable. But after 1985, there was also school fund was not transferable. And we saw that thing continued, and 1991, between 1996, between 1985, 86, 87, there was introduction of boarding fees, which was about 100 kwacha. So 100 kwacha, and then there was also the school fees were costing about 49 kwacha. That used to be a lot of money for villagers, because I remember if you are a villager from Northern Province, 18 of millet was costing about let's say 3 kwacha. So meaning that for you to pay 49 kwacha in a secondary school, you need to say 49 divided by 3. So it was a lot of things that you were to sell. So in short, cost of education creates a barrier to access to inclusive education. And so when the New Dawn government looked at that, there was need now to equalize.
Yes.
Yeah, the issue of equalization. But also we need also to take care of where are we coming from. In 2002, President Manawasa pronounced free primary education. It was also responding to Millennium Development Goals to ensure that the primary there was access to primary education.
Did it work?
Well, first of all, I think the lessons that we can learn from the MMD free education policy was that, first of all, it was highly political. The pronouncement was in good faith, but first of all, it was highly political and it was more political when PF took office, because now there was more propaganda than information communication in terms of what needed to be done. Because for a politician, when you remember, the package was not really free, as you may say, because schools were given leverage to seek approval when there is a project to be implemented.
Was this the birth of the PTA?
No, the PTA has been there. That has been there for a long time. So when you look at this, then you find that because that abolished the PTA fund in schools. We did some studies, I think, looking at some of the issues, because government started now to pay the income loss. For example, if you are losing this much, they pay for that. So they structured the free education in a way that the formula which was being used is the issue to do with the number of learners in a particular school. So the grants, the free education grants were given based on the number of schools in the number of pupils in the schools. But it also had a lot of challenges of disbursement. And I think this is what you have seen in the New Dawn government. Before the school opens, something has been disbursed. The resources have been disbursed. One time I happened to be in a school, one school in Mansa called Kalaba, and we were trying to track the disbursement of free education package, because the free education package included the chalk, textbooks. It also included a number of things, the books, the stationery, the books for kids from grade 1 to grade 7. And this never worked. I went to that school, and I think I visited a number of schools in Luapula, in northern, in southern, and the problem was the same. One of the problems which was there was, first of all, some head teachers could even ask you to say, what are you tracking? Because from some schools, maybe over the past 3 years, had never received the grants, free education grants. So the issue now that happened was that there was a shift. Those schools which were basic schools started to enroll more of grade 8 to grade 8 and grade 9. So the grade 8 and grade 9, because those were paying school fees and PTAs. So when they increased the enrollment, they reduced the enrollment for grade 1. So this continued that I think government, the PF government, identified this weakness and issued a statement or a policy guidance in terms of enrollment of grade 1. Because now the schools had challenges. Because now it means that if you have a basic school, you need to enroll more grade 8 and grade 9. These are the ones that now support the primary level. And this is, I think, when we are talking about free education policy, this is one thing that needs to be avoided. First of all, because it disadvantages the access by the primary learners, because people might go into that. And that's why if you look at the package for the New Dawn government, it is from grade 1 to secondary school. And I think so far, when you look at the in terms of disbursement of funds, I think it has never happened.
Okay, so but are you? You can go ahead. 324 million kwacha released for the first term of 2022. I'll get us how many schools? Is this money enough to cater for what the schools need in one term? You are a teacher. You've done a lot of research. You know how many schools we have in this country. Is this money enough to cover for the expenses that these schools really need?
Well, first of all, before I even answer your question, I think we must also understand, even when people were paying school fees, were parents able to pay the school fees? I think that is the first question that we must answer. And when we answer that question, then we are going to answer the question, why is it that government like the MMD government came up with a free education policy? First of all, let's give ourselves, first of all, the statistics of poverty. When you talk about statistics of poverty, you realize that on average, we have about 54% Zambian people that are living in poverty, average poverty. And you have about 40%, 40.8% extreme poverty. Zambian people that are living in extreme poverty. Meaning, when we are talking about extreme poverty, we are talking about close to 8.5 million Zambian people that are living in extreme poverty. Extreme poverty means that these are people that require social protection to support their kind of living. If there was a way in which government can support this, it was not just going to support the free education policy. They are also supposed to support the free health policy, even providing meal on a monthly basis, because the extreme poverty entails that this group of people may not even fund their own, let's say, even going to toilet, because there's need for tissues and all that.
Need to wash hands, they need a soap to wash hands.
All that. That's what we are talking about. So when we are talking about is this money enough, let's talk about, do we have a population that is able to pay? So there is jubilation out there.
Okay, just hold on, Mr. Mapi. I just want to tap into your knowledge. It's the same thing. 40% extreme poverty, 54% are which ones?
54% is on average.
Those
it's
that
the average,
3 meals?
moderate poverty.
3 meals?
Not
3 meals?
Not 3 meals. Again, this one we can start again, beginning to also start to look at province by province. So, for example, if you go to Western Province, the poverty levels in the Western Province is about 82.8%. Wapura Province is 81.2%. Northern Province is about 79.2%. If you go down the Northern Province, Muchinga Province, so you look at also now, on average, you have rural poverty, which is about 78%. So, in the design of development by the New Dawn government, there is need then to look at how do we ensure that we distribute education equitably. You remember I was one of those people that led the inequality campaign in Zambia.
Exactly.
And one of the things that we're talking about, drivers of inequality, is education. So if children of the poor people are not educated, children like children like HH, if they were not given an opportunity to be educated, he was not going to be president. Children like Lewis Map, who is still even owes Luwingu Secondary Schools some boarding fees. There are a lot of other friends.
Why haven't you paid back, Mr. Mapi?
I have paid back. But what I'm saying is that there are a number of our brothers and sisters, even as we talk about is it enough? That question, as we talk about is it enough, let's also talk about a number of that more than 50% of our population that cannot afford to pay even a 10 kwacha. Look at how the people are complaining just for uniforms. So, first of all, I think it's a good start. Let's allow the New Dawn government, first of all, to implement the free education policy. I know that it is, when it looks to that, you find that the rural primary schools will benefit from that. I know that there are also certain schools that are going to lose income. In my study one time, I went to one of the schools in Kabronga, should be Kabronga A, or Woodlands A, secondary school, primary school. It is also what? At that time, Woodlands A used to make with PTA, when they were paying PTA, that is when it was prior to 202. They were making about 340,000 kwacha, then 40 million. And the income replacement by government then was 11,000, 11 million then. So you can see the gap. It was very big. Yes, this gap, even under the New Dawn government, might exist in some of the schools. But what has been done is that for secondary schools, you remember they were paying about 200 kwacha, those that are day schools. So what government has done is to ensure that this 200 kwacha is paid to each of these schools, so that there is no much income loss. And by the way, the formula that the public is using is also wrong, because I think it also goes with the question, Sharon, which you have asked, because we want to look at the number, the amount that has been dispersed, which is about 324 million kwacha.
Schools.
Then you divide by the number of schools. You know, schools are also in different categories. At primary level, we have what we call grade. We have ungraded, which I think they have been done away with. We have also grade 4, grade 3, grade 2, grade 1, and they used also to be what used to be called the super grade 1 schools.
Which ones were those? Oh my goodness! I feel like I'm talking to
super grade 1 schools. But the super grade 1 schools, they had about 48 or so classrooms. So most schools in Lusaka were either grade 1 or super grade 1, and very few were grade 2 schools. But when you look at enrollment, that also defines the formula of disbursement of the even the resources. Because now it is not like I'm saying, you say 324 million kwacha divided by the number of schools.
How many schools do we have, Mr. Mape?
The number of schools fluctuate based every time.
Because certain schools close in rural areas, eh?
Not close as per se, because there is what I'm talking about, because we classify the schools as primary or secondary. Yes. Now, schools continue to be upgraded. So today I can give you figures, maybe could be based on 2020 figures on the statistical bulletin, or 2018, the latest statistical bulletins, where you have about maybe 9,000 plus. For now we can talk about 10,000 primary schools. We can also talk about 2,000 secondary schools. So if you add this, we can talk about maybe about 12,000. So you divide by 24 That's why you find that the PF formula is the PF formula. Those the leaders that failed to deliver education, that's the formula they are using to undermine the good work that the UPN is trying to put in place. They are trying to tell you to say we are going to have about, by the way, even if we had 30,000 kwacha per school, the school in the rural area, that is the total income for the year when they were collecting resources. So if you tell them that they are going to get 30,000 kwacha per quarter, I can tell you, Sharon, people will be dancing. There will be improvement in the delivery of education in some rural areas. But in the urban area, if we use the principle of equality, in the urban area, they will be crying.
Exactly.
Because if you go to a school like I'm talking about, Woodlands, a hillside school, you go to Chaisa, you go to all these schools in Chipata, Kanyama A, Kanyama B, New Kanyama, you see, those schools are crowded. So it can only be saved by the principle of equity in the distribution of resources, and that is the principle which is being used. So I think the public, we need to ensure that we look at how is it going to be done. And I think for me, in the case of Ministry of Education, I think we would need to recommend that there is need to amplify monitoring and evaluation, ensuring that we gather the learning and the lessons, so that we come back and look at the allocative formula in terms of how do we ensure that we meet? Now the SDG 4 that you talked about that focuses on equality.
Yes.
Because when we talk about equality and inclusiveness, because in that money, for example, under the PF regime, certain schools, we are talking about 20,000, certain schools were receiving less than 1,000 kwacha, 900 kwacha. Now, that 900 kwacha, if a school like there is a school in Matero, which runs the special education center. From that formula, the special education only gets 10%. So meaning that if you have a center at that school, you have a special education center. It means that if the PF government disburses 900 kwacha, it means that the special education center only gets 90 kwacha. And imagine if you are talking of 90 kwacha, the special education schools have a lot of needs, even more than the needs of the schools, the normal school. So in some schools there were 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. So the formula was based on the number of kids. And this is one thing that I think when we are talking about inclusive education, even the UPND needed to relook at. I think there is need to look at the allocative formula if we are to deal with the issue of inclusive access to education, because it means that the citizens living with disabilities will have a challenge if we maintain the same
Mr. Mape,
the same formula.
I want to also bring you to something else. We talk about free education, and that money that government is providing is towards operations.
Yes.
Now, I want to find out, we've seen that even under the system the PF was using, it was difficult to maintain some schools. Let's say schools even here in urban areas, like let's say Kablonga, maintaining the entire school, let's say football pitches, all these things, the surroundings, maintaining it. Do you think the CDF would also play a part in terms of probably tapping into the resources of CDF to maintain the schools?
And I think that's the agenda, first of all. There's one thing maybe we also didn't look at. In terms of boarding schools, at the moment, they are supposed to, each parent is supposed to pay about 1,000 kwacha for boarding schools. But there is also you remember I talked about poverty issues, which I'm very sure that if we talk about poverty issues in rural schools, if I talk about Lupososhi, for example, Lupososhi Secondary School as a boarding school, I talk about a school in Jalamimba, in Porokoso, a boarding school. We talk about a school in Ichilubi, a boarding school there in Ichilubi. We talk about Shangombo. And when we talk about 1,000 kwacha per child, it means that the support systems will basically be bordered on CDF. Because as you may be aware that the CDF has almost 3 components.
Okay.
There is a youth empowerment component. There is social protection component.
We can order Mr. Mobi, just a moment. We are through to Camnet TV.
Thank you so very much. This is Velan Andoli calling you from Lusaka.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Thank you so much. Good morning to Mr. Mape.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm permanently blessed, and how are you, sir?
Nice. Nice.
Thank you. Good morning to you too, the panel. I mean the presenter, sorry.
Good morning.
We are blessed.
Thank you. Very quickly, the issue of the status of our education system. challenge is very basic. This is my honest opinion, observation. Is that, you see, we have everything that is required to properly manage. But because of the mindset that has been eroded and corrupted, we continue to make justification even where justification should not be made. The issue here is prudent management. You see, I think the president, just after the announcement of his election victory, and I think subsequent, press conferences that he had, one of the things that he kept highlighting was the issue of how, prices are inflated, even on simple things like a bobbin. A bobbin that is supposed to cost 2 kwacha, somebody will pay it at 10 kwacha, 15 kwacha, because they want to make an extra cut. And when you have such kind of system going on, even if you put in so much millions of kwacha into a particular sector or project, in this case we're talking or looking at the education sector, we still have issues going on because we have leaks where money that are meant to go to a particular project are being pocketed, abused, misused, and so on and so forth. So the issue that we should keep in is prudent management. You see, where I come from, they say, you see, so even with the resources, when you look at how we do our own management, some people earn very little income. Some, as we speak now, are earning something like 3,000 and below. And yet, they've got to make the payment of rentals, they've got to pay electricity bills, water bills, and pay for the school fees before there was now this arrangement that is in place, health, bills, and so on and so forth. And they've got also to budget for their own, food ration to carry them from the first day of the month to the last day of the month. We do prudent management. We manage within what we have. And so if we do that, and we are able to do that in the public system, how are we going to fare? We're going to manage these things. But because we are always having this mentality of it is for the public, and so on and so forth, there are certain classic cases of public schools, even previously, that if, show examples of how to manage things like eating football pitches, just the sanitary, the sanitation environment at the school where they do the planting of flowers, and just keeping the environment clean and so on and so forth. While the same other institutions, government schools, we find them in a deplorable state, toilets are shut down and so on. Basic things that they could do in just flashing handles and so on, they are just left, in tatters like that, expecting, government to pour in money and stuff like that. Money which eventually they contract, shoddy contractors or these plumbers or builders who do a shoddy job and give, crazy quotations, and life continues. So for me, the challenge, in terms of proper management or development of our education sector lies in prudent management of public resources. Whatever resources that are given, if they put.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Mabi. Obviously, he's agreeing with you in one way or the other, saying we may have all the millions in the world, but if at all there's imprudency in the way we put these resources to, we will not achieve anything at the end of the day. Maybe, would you like to speak to that?
Well, I think that's where I was getting to, and that's why I was trying to emphasize the issue of standard monitoring to be improved. I think there is need to ensure that the Ministry of Education, and I think this is one thing that has been spoken to, even by the Minister of Education, if we are to achieve the quality education, the issue of standard education monitoring needs to be improved. And also I think under the planning department, there is need also to ensure that monitoring and evaluation is one of the principal factors that needs to be pushed up, because I think there will need to be a lot of learning, because what the UPNG has started is not just a casting stone. There will be need for a lot of lessons that needs to be learned during I think even after the implementation of the first quarter. There will be need to draw lessons, how the money has been used, and I think Treasury also has put in place a lot of education to ensure that there is accountable utilization of free education resources. And once that is done, if all the administrators of the funds at the school level are educated, are empowered, capacity built in terms of accountability, in terms of utilization of resources, then it will be good. I think the problem that we have had is misapplication even of the meager resources by government workers. And I think where we are coming from a regime that believed in corruption, that there was no accountability of resources. I think if we have a president that is committed to instill the sense of responsibility from the top level, it makes the work of administrators very simple, because everyone will have to adhere to the principles of accountability. And when there is accountability, you are not going to sink a ball which at personal level you sink at maybe 20,000 kwacha. To build a toilet which you build at less than 10,000, but you build 100 times. So those are the drainages that see even the meager resources go not direct to the child, because we are talking about a formula which uses a number of learners. So if resources are spent on other are abused, the resources are inflated, the cost of things are inflated, it means you are stealing from that child who is supposed to benefit from the work. So if you look at the emphasis by the president and the team, is that there is need to ensure that there is accountability, there is need to ensure that every resource is counted and is directed to the required direction. So basically that's what we need, but for me we need to do a lot of learning. I know that there is going to be some resource gap. I know that every time we say that resources are scarce. So if resources are scarce, it means that there is no time that you are going to have resources that we say, no, this is too much. So
it's never too much.
So we need to start from somewhere. I think if we have government that before the schools open, resources are taken to the schools, first of all, that is a plus. Then the second thing that requires learning is how is it that the schools are managing? Because at a school you have other attendant costs. For example, if you go to a school like a secondary school, there are certain other auxiliary staff that for example, that are employed by the PTA. The PTA fund, then they employ, sometimes they also employ the teachers. So, but again, you look at this, it means that there are certain teachers that are in schools who are on a PTA payroll. Meaning that when government begins to look at the employing of teachers, the first one that should be employed should be those that are already on the PTA payroll. They are already in the schools, and that's why also we can also commend even in the previous regime in the way of decentralization. The Teaching Service Commission has been decentralized, I think, in all the 116 districts. Meaning that the employment of teachers will be done at district level. So if the employment of teachers will be done at district level, what that entails is that these schools, these high schools and primary schools, we also know that we are also talking about the change in the education system. We used to have the 7, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if you understand
the language. You're too intelligent, like I mentioned. You know.
the 7, 2, 3, 4 it just entails that it's 7 years of primary, 2 years of junior secondary, 3 years of senior secondary, and then 4 years
of university.
Okay. So now there is this preschool ECE, which is also a beneficiary, which is also a percentage of this. ECE is also early childhood education. Early childhood education. So early childhood education needs also to be integrated in the primary, in the public schools, because this used to be provided under the local government system. All of fair, and also the mining schools used to do a lot of that. But that is a disadvantage. Studies have shown that if a child goes to a preschool, the likelihood of getting into enhancing the IQ is very high, and that getting into university is also very high. So you maintain that intelligent quotient throughout the education system. And so as a result, it is also important that we also refocus on early childhood education. And this government, the New Dawn government, is saying that they are also going to provide free ECE education, so which is also a percentage of what is provided to that particular school. So for me also, when we are talking about that, it is also a way in which we need to rework our allocative formula so that we don't underplay the role of the ECE. And also we need also to look at the community schools. There are also some community schools which are grant aided. So also that they are also part of this initiative. So I know that Central Province is one of those provinces with the highest number of community schools.
Wow.
And you know, Central Province is vast. Even when we are talking about CDF, when we talk about a district like Kapiri, Kapiri is one of the biggest districts in terms of land mass. So they need to be relooking at that. And I think what we need also is to undergo the delimitation of districts so that we have increased on the number of CDF, say constituencies that may be receiving the CDF, so that when it comes to social protection like secondary support to education, boarding fees, that will be easily catered for if the more constituencies are increased in some of the districts which have very large constituencies.
Right, we are in conversation with development activist Mr. Lewis Mwapi, and we are discussing the education sector, at least the reforms that have been made this far. And we are discussing the first batch of the budgetary allocation towards the education sector with regards to free education, and we are discussing quite a number of issues. Before we move on from this issue, Mr. Mwapi, I'm not sure if you've dealt enough with the issue of this free education. How free is this free education? This is a question that many people are asking. It's created a hullabaloo on social media because just recently, I think this week, some of the schools were enrolling grade 1s, and we've seen that a number of schools are requesting parents to bring in some of the things that brooms, tissue, all those things, and an amount of money, minimal though.
And also compelling parents to be buying uniforms at the specific
school, which are exaggerated, because we all know that a uniform probably for a grade 1 would not even cost a 150, but you find that the uniform is 250. It's
350.
350. With these tokens that they've started bringing now away from the usual grey ones we used to wear. You used to wear, Mr. Mapa, me the white ones. They're bringing the colored tokens, yes. And now the whole uniform becomes a 500, for a grade 1.
Which is equivalent to paying
school fees. Actually, so what's your take on that? How free is this free education? What route should we take to ensure that indeed people do not feel that pinch that they felt before, so that they enjoy their celebration of having their children go to school for free?
It's a good question that I definitely wanted to avoid. Unfortunately,
we got to the task.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think let me also say this. I've been to countries where education is free, and trying to learn how free education is free and how free is free. Maybe one thing that we must understand is that in the context of free, there are certain things that are a responsibility of parents worldwide. For example, very rich economies, children, nutrition is part of education. Children in schools, many schools in the developed countries, they carry food. It is a responsibility of parents to go with food, to carry food. It is also a responsibility of parents to provide transport money to go to school, because transport money is part of school system or education system. Because if you are coming from Matero and your school is Kabronga Secondary School, or you come from Kanyama and your school is Mnani Secondary School, a parent has a responsibility to provide transport money for that kid to move from Kanyama to Munali, or from whatever place where you reside, to the school. You are supposed to provide food for the child. You are supposed to provide books. Yes, like for the conception of free education under MMD was that under primary school, schools needed to provide books for pupils, but it proved to be a costly venture, and that in the package of free education, the New Dawn government is focusing on what has been the challenge which parents have had in terms of access to education. And one of the challenges is, for example, to pupils, to parents or households, they have the resources to provide pupils with their children with boarding fees. It has been a challenge. One time we visited one school with one of my colleagues in the non-governmental gender coordinating council, Madam Ngwase Mwale, where they have been supporting some children in the northern province, and we found that some of the pupils dropped off, especially the girl child, because of boarding fees. So the government is saying, but using the localized resources, the CDF, the people, the committee is supposed to identify vulnerable households who are not able to pay boarding fee, and apply and facilitate to ensure that they are supported to pay the boarding fees. This is how a government needs to think, so that first of all, the fund is localized. We are talking about people who know each other. We are not talking about the scheme that is supported by people that can talk about, that can enroll people that are able, that are capable. I am aware that the president has been emphasizing on the fact that we need to support those who are not able to support themselves. You are not supposed to pick a child for a minister to support them to pay the boarding fees, because all these ministers have other facilities that are there which can be able to pay for boarding fees.
And they can afford it.
And they can afford permanent secretaries and all these others, some other senior government officials. But what we saw in the past is that a facility is created for the poor, and then the rich take advantage of the poor, and the rich get that. For example, you saw the cry by university students from Hunza, from Mulongoshi, from all these public institutions. The system was very rotten. The children of the permanent secretaries, the children of ministers, the children of party cadres are the ones. For you to get a space, you needed to know a district commissioner to enroll you, and the district commissioner needed to know you that you are a cadre for you to benefit. And so the ordinary people who are actually the majority voters who put in a government and remove a government. So it is important that first of all we depoliticize the government facilities. And first of all, you have seen that there is a step forward in depoliticizing the CDF itself.
Okay. So, Mr. Mwape, we are almost in the dying minutes, but before we go, I would like us to tackle quite a number of issues that are remaining. Let's throw in the issue of the 100% progression rate. It has also been talked about quite a lot. And coming from you, a development activist and an education activist, you are a teacher. Obviously, you've taught in the era of cutoff points. How would you compare it to now, and what is the impact on the education
who are not able to
read, right?
But should they still progress to grade 8?
You guys, well, first of all, it's a government policy. Also, we must also understand, why do we have cutoff point? Cutoff point is built as a screening process to ensure that we have what we call education pyramid. When we say education pyramid, it looks like this. It is it's huge on the base. As we call it, means that I think there is one colleague, an education who has been following me very well, Mr. Sinjera. At one time, Mr. Derek Sinjera. One time he captioned, I think he quoted me saying, "Where are those who failed exams? Where do they go?" I think that was the issue we were discussing. So this is built, that question is built around the issue of education pyramid. So under the education pyramid, it means that there are more children in the lower 1 to 7. By the way, it is actually 1 to 4, 4 to 7, because you remember the issue of early marriages in Eastern Province. Our province where children get married very early. Very funny people. They don't value education in the Easterners. So we have that early marriages. So from grade 4 to grade 7, we see also children beginning to reach puberty stage. And at that point, some children beginning to fall off. Early marriages, issues of gender, which our colleagues have been fighting very well. So from there again, few secondary schools. You remember we are talking about more than 9,000 primary schools compared to 2,000 secondary schools. And 5 or so universities, meaning that the pyramid continues to slim, sharpen. So in that context, you can only succeed when you introduce the cutoff point.
But we don't have it anymore.
Now, so the government built a lot of primary schools. Then they also did the upgrading of secondary schools. some secondary schools which are not numbered into this which we are talking about. They are still graded as primary schools. So they call them in a different Nigerian term, few schools. But here is how in few schools in countries where this has been achieved, there is also an attendant education system to look at quality, because you don't just take children based on the single exam and you say all of them have passed for the sake of achieving the universal primary or 9-year education. You remember the Millennium Development Goals about 9-year education to accord every child 9-year education. So as a result, so government was responding to a 9-year education so that every child at least gets to attain 9 years of education. At that level, they introduced now what was called the 2-tier system curriculum, where they would still invest in vocational and academic. But again, when you look at the 2-tier system, the other side is orphaned. How many, if you go to these primary schools, could you find the carpentry workshops, the woodwork, metalwork, and all this? So I think until we invest in this, then the 100% pass rate will be a good thing. And I'm sure that the UPND in government will look at the quality, because it is not just looking at the quantity, but we also need to look at the quality. If it will be maintained, it means that we need to provide infrastructure that will provide for systemic assessment, whereby children will be assessed at every stage. So it means more work for the children, for the teachers, more work for the children. Those children that have capability to do the vocational, they will be moved into that stream. So in that way, the 100% pass rate will what?
Makes sense.
Yeah. In certain, so it means that we need to relaunch in our education formula the repeating. There is no way we can neglect the quality aspect. The SDG4, the SDG4 we talked about is about quality. So quality can only go with high investment, and I think for a start, we have seen that government is trying to invest in the education sector, but I think there is need to invest more also in the infrastructure. So my colleagues at the Ministry of Education needs to do a lot of planning, especially when it comes to infrastructure development, so that even when we talk about 100%, it will be done.
Mr. Mwape, thank you so much for gracing our screens. Patrick, your concluding remarks.
Interesting there. We also have some messages which we ask that you beam on our sides via our Facebook. People who managed to get through to us, and we are happy that Thomas Mulenga was following our program, exactly that with the deliberations. Once gift also was following and says very impressive. James Malanji says well said. Kanabesa Lewis Mwape Wakanabesa Bashala Nyabo and Thomas Mulenga is just wondering when members became Kanabesa. These people are very funny, Sharon. They even have a surname for the devil. Yeah, I know, right? Is it coming? Imagine. We are coming to the 9 minutes of our program, and we've been having a good conversation with Mr. Lewis Mwape, an interesting discussion on the education sector there. A number of issues Mr. Mwape brought out is just emphasizing that to say it's good that the progress is being made towards the free education program. No need to demonize it, because we are just starting the process, and we'll be improving as we proceed as a country, and it is only fair that we assess how it's going to be to perform, and we'll play our role as a media organization to ensure that during the first quarter of the period, we also do our review in terms of how these schools have fared in terms of the funding that has been provided so far. This has been Patrick Soko. Sharon.
My name is Sharon Kalimbola. Thank you so much for choosing us. Join us again tomorrow on The Business for Breakfast as we talk business on this show. Good morning.